It was a saga that led to a major feature film. The Face of an Angel tells the tale of a young American student accused of killing her friend in a small university town. It is the story of the murder of Meredith Kercher and the extraordinary trial of Amanda Knox.
It's all about sex, about her being the lead killer in a sexualized homicide.
The idea of a beautiful young girl murdering her girlfriend for no apparent reason is sort of tabloid gold.
Many words used against her, I hope the bitch burns in hell, the whore.
When the film is released, many believe that Amanda Knox is a sex-crazed killer. But we can now say what the film could not. Amanda Knox never killed anyone. This is the real story of how an innocent girl fell victim to an outlandish conspiracy theory, and how the world was duped into believing her guilt. In London, crowds gather for the premiere of the new British film, Face of an Angel. Featuring model Cara Delevingne in her first major acting role, the film tells of the murder of a young British student in a small Italian college town. If the scenario seems familiar, it is because it is inspired by real events. In 2007, the world became obsessed with the beautiful blue-eyed American Amanda Knox, who was accused of the brutal slaying of her British roommate, Meredith Kercher, in Perugia, Italy.
It was a huge case. It was on the front page of newspapers all over the world.
She's pretty. They call her Angel Face. Can somebody that innocent and pure really be evil?
Amanda Knox was found guilty and sentenced to 26 years. But it is now beyond doubt that she and her boyfriend were always innocent of the crime. What is more, we also know who really did kill Meredith Kercher.
One man did it, and he's in jail for it. So we know exactly who did it. Rudy Gaudet.
The entire saga poses a question. How could two innocent people have been found guilty and sent to jail as sadistic killers? In the quiet Italian town of Perugia, the body of English student Meredith Kercher has been discovered at her home near the town centre. Prosecution lawyer Giuliano Mignini will head up the investigation and is taken to view the grisly murder scene.
In that first moment, there was blood. It was there, a room turned upside down. There was the corpse underneath a blanket. There was a foot sticking out from the cover.
Her throat was cut. She had a huge gaping wound in her neck.
This was a young girl, Meredith. Her bra was pulled up, so she was nude. It very evidently seemed to be a crime of a sexual nature.
So who might have committed this horrific sexual murder? Mignini looks for clues. He finds a window has been smashed and opened.
It looked as if somebody broke into the house expecting to find it empty with the intention of taking what they could.
Mignini wonders, is this a burglary that has somehow gone terribly wrong? But something seems strange to the prosecutor. The burglar doesn't appear to have taken anything of value, despite a number of expensive gadgets being in full view. More than that, no burglar would have entered the building through this particular window.
We realized straight away that it was a sham. The window was 10 feet from ground level. It was also the window which was most exposed towards pedestrians and vehicles passing by. So it was absurd that some stranger should choose that window and then steal nothing.
Mignini starts to formulate a theory. The burglary is a ruse to hide the real motive for this murder. But what sort of person would do that?
Whoever committed the crime must be someone who comes to this house, who stays in this house. This is what we thought.
While the forensics team go about their business, Mignini looks for other clues. He focuses on the bedding covering Meredith's body.
It is unlikely that a stranger, a criminal who broke into the house, would feel the need to cover the nude body of that girl. Usually, a woman tends to cover up the nude body of another woman with a kind of feminine compassion towards another woman. I immediately thought that there must have been a female present.
But if a woman was involved, there also must have been a man who had committed the sexual assault. And there are bloody footprints in the bedroom and bathroom too large to be a woman's. An idea strikes Mignini. He is looking at the work of multiple killers. His attention is then drawn to a young couple waiting outside the building. They are Meredith's American roommate, Amanda Knox, and her boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito. Amanda is the only resident of the house who had been in Perugia on the night of the murder, and her behavior strikes Mignini as strange.
I remember that Amanda was pressing herself against Sollecito. She didn't seem to be particularly shaken by the circumstances.
Amanda Knox doesn't yet know it, but the course of her life has just taken a horrific turn. Amanda Knox had set off for Italy from Seattle less than 2 months earlier.
She'd been studying creative writing at the University of Washington. She was just a kid. You know, she was 19 years old when she set off with her own money and her own industriousness to this great adventure.
In Perugia, Amanda finds a house share with 2 young Italian women and with British student Meredith Kircher. The 2 girls quickly become friends. Amanda also takes a part-time waitressing job at the bar of local businessman Patrick Lumumba. And just a week before Meredith's murder, she meets her boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, at a classical music concert.
She thought Raffaele was cute. He looked like Harry Potter, and that's what she said. And she was kind of smitten, and he was too, but they were kids, and it wasn't any long relationship before this all happened to them.
But 6 weeks later, Meredith is dead, and although she doesn't yet know it, Amanda Knox has fallen under suspicion of being involved in her friend's rape and murder. She and Raffaele are brought to the Perugia police station to give formal statements.
She did not at all think that she was under suspicion. She just thought she was being helpful.
Amanda has only been learning Italian for a few months, but she tries to explain to the police her movements on the night of the murder. She had been watching a film with her boyfriend.
She had been at Raffaele's home, and they'd watched the movie Amelie.
Raffaele's computer records later confirmed that the film is downloaded and watched at this time. And they end up spending the night together. Next, the police want to know about events the day Meredith's body is discovered. Amanda explains that she leaves Raffaele and returns to her apartment, where she finds the front door wide open. Initially, she is not concerned. This has happened before.
The front door had a faulty lock. There was nothing eventful. She said that when she came home, she took a shower there in the house. She took a shower at her own home.
Knox tells the police that it is only after she has taken a shower that she notices the bloodstains on the bathroom rug and the bathroom sink. Puzzled, she returns to Raffaele's. Unable to contact Meredith, she and Raffaele go back to the cottage. They discover the broken window and call the police. It is then that Meredith's body is found. It is a plausible story, but already the police suspect it is a pack of lies. Amanda and Raffaele give their statements, but are told they will be questioned further. For the next few hours, they must sit and wait. By mid-afternoon, Italian news channels have taken up the story. Such a brutal murder is a major event in the quiet Italian district of Umbria. News reports are illustrated with footage from the crime scene, including images of Amanda.
Amanda Knox and her boyfriend Raffaele Sollecito were already photographed outside the crime scene by television cameras embracing.
They were comforting each other in that iconic image in front of the cottage. That's it. And then the next frame, you would see that they were looking very sad.
But to the police, Amanda's behavior seems wrong. At the station, she attracts even more attention.
I do recall this. Amanda's reactions were very strange, let's say unconventional.
Frequently, Amanda seeks solace from her new boyfriend. To the onlooking police, these exchanges appear inappropriately intimate.
Amanda Knox was a very naive 20-year-old American girl from the Pacific Northwest, just struggling to try to figure out how to behave.
At one point, unaware she is being watched, the young American attempts to break the tension by making silly faces. To the police, her actions are insensitive at best, highly suspicious at worst.
It all fed into a climate of receptivity to the suggestion that she was perhaps a killer.
At such a time, when another roommate was dead, killed in such atrocious circumstances, seeing her was really quite shocking.
Over the next few days, Amanda is interrogated by police for nearly 50 hours, day and night. Increasingly, the questions become more personal, focusing on her sex life.
Mignini fixated on Amanda Knox as somebody that was wanton, a wanton American.
Unfortunately, in Italy, American girls do not have a good reputation. They're away from their parents, they go wild, it's a problem, and Italians don't like it.
They'd asked her about who she'd slept with. They had to do a list of who she'd slept with. I mean, they were very interested in her and sex.
For Mignini, who believes this is a murder with a sexual motive, Amanda's apparently overt sexual behavior makes her a suspect.
It's not wrong to have a suspicion. It's not wrong if an investigator says that person, to me, doesn't seem to be acting right. But that means nothing until the evidence comes in.
All the while, investigators have been working on Raffaele. They are looking for any weakness in the couple's alibi, that at the time of the murder they were watching the film Amelie in Raffaele's apartment. After 4 days of questioning, for the first time, Raffaele's account changes.
Sollecito per la prima volta e l'unica volta.
Sollecito, for the first and only time, distances himself from Amanda. He said that Amanda had not been with him for the entire evening.
What Raffaele initially says is that he had been asleep at times, meaning Amanda could theoretically have slipped out without him knowing. Raffaele will later retract this statement, but it provides the crack in the alibi that the investigators have been looking for. They now go back to Amanda. She is told Raffaele has changed his story and has said she was not at his apartment on the night of the murder.
E le hanno cominciato a chiedere
They informed her about Sollecito's declaration,
di questa dichiarazione lì.
and they asked her where she had
E
gone.
quindi le hanno chiesto dove fosse andata, dove...
Amanda is confused, but maintains she had been with Raffaele all night. The police now change tack. They show her records from her cell phone. At the time that she says she was at home with Raffaele, she had had an exchange of messages with her boss from the bar, Patrick Lumumba. Amanda had been scheduled to work at the bar that evening. But at 8:14, Lumumba had sent her a text saying the bar was quiet and she could have the night off. Amanda had then sent him a reply.
She has said, "Sure, see you later."
As we know, in English, see you later can mean see you later today. It can simply mean see you around. Ciao, see you sometime.
But to the police, it means something very specific.
They interpreted that to mean see you later to kill Meredith together.
They now reveal why they are so interested in Lumumba. The forensic team found the hair of someone of African descent in Meredith's bedroom. The implication is that Lumumba and Amanda are in this together.
They kept saying we found a Negroid hair at the scene. That's the word they used, the Negroid hair at the scene. We see this text to the bar owner, who was black, and then basically said, was he there? He was there. He must have been involved.
The questioning becomes increasingly hostile.
They kept up this interrogation hour after hour.
Amanda becomes ever more exhausted and fraught, but it is different for the police.
Every hour, 2 new people come in. 2 new people, 2 new people.
And they had something like 30 police officers and others who were involved in these interrogations.
Amanda is close to her breaking point. Eventually, an English-speaking officer arrives, and the police employ a new tactic.
One of the techniques of interrogation was to ask hypothetical questions.
They'd asked her to imagine, had she been there, what would she have done?
If you were at the scene of the crime, can you speculate on what you might have seen?
Amanda complies and suggests what she would have done if Lumumba had killed Meredith and if she had been in the house when it had happened.
And she said, I would have covered my ears if I heard screaming.
The police take Amanda's comments and write them up, not as hypothetical, but as statements of fact. They write that she admits to being in the villa with Lumumba when Meredith is murdered. The statement says that Amanda had been smoking marijuana the evening of the murder, so her memories are confused, but she had met with Lumumba and had taken him to her home.
She said, I took him to the house in Via della Pergola because he was infatuated with Meredith.
E ho sentito
I heard him rape her and then kill her.
che l'ha uccisa, questo è quello che lei...
In short, she places herself at the scene of the
Del luogo
crime.
del delitto, anche se in un'altra stanza.
Just before dawn, a confused and disoriented Amanda Knox agrees to sign the prepared statement.
This statement is written, by the way, in extremely sophisticated police jargon Italian that there's no way she could have understood what it said.
She never had a chance. She never had a chance.
For Mignini, it is proof of what he has always suspected, that Amanda was involved in Meredith's murder. In the cold light of day, Amanda understands what she's done and pens 14 pages of explanation, effectively retracting the statement. But it is too late. On November the 6th, 2007, Amanda Knox, her boyfriend Raffaele Sollecito, and Patrick Lumumba are arrested and charged with the murder of Meredith Kercher. They face the prospect of spending the rest of their lives in an Italian jail cell. Shortly afterwards, the police dramatically announced to the press that they and Mignini have solved the murder.
Caso chiuso, the case is closed. We have solved this case.
But it is far from closed. Within weeks, a gaping hole emerges in Mignini's case.
None of the forensic evidence at the murder scene corresponded to the prints or the DNA of the people who were in the frame.
Not only have they found no DNA of Amanda Knox at the crime scene, they have found no DNA for Sollecito or Lumumba either. Neither do the bloody footprints match these three suspects. And there are no fingerprints for any of them. Most tellingly, the African hair found in Meredith's bedroom is not a match for Lumumba. In fact, there are 8 people who testify Lumumba was working in his bar when Meredith was killed. He is released immediately. But the forensic evidence does point to the involvement of someone else.
It indicated that there was a completely unknown fourth party whose DNA was all over the crime scene.
There was blood, there were fingerprints, there was physical evidence consistent with attempted sexual assault, and then it all matched him.
The person it matches is Rudy Guede, a troubled local youth whose fingerprints the Perugian police already have on file. Although Guede was not a friend of Amanda or Meredith's, the police discover he is known by the boys who live in the apartment below them. And more than that, Guede had actually fled to Germany the morning Meredith's body was discovered. Guede is a known burglar. The police can even link him to 3 burglaries in Perugia immediately prior to the murder, all of which bear striking similarities to the break-in Mignini had declared was staged. In one, Guede had even been found carrying a kitchen knife similar to that which the police believe was used to kill Meredith. Guede is extradited back to Italy, opts for a fast-track trial, and is sentenced to 16 years. But this places Mignini in a difficult position. It doesn't match his much-publicized account of a group sex attack that involved Amanda and Raffaele.
The responsible thing for police to do would have been to say, hold everything, let's look at this whole thing again from the start. But police forces and prosecutor offices all over the world, not only in Italy, find it very difficult to eat their words, particularly when they've gone public with something as dramatic as this.
Mignini sticks to his theory of multiple killers.
I never understood how anyone could claim that Rudy was the only person responsible. Someone was holding that girl tightly, while the others jabbed her with the knives.
So Mignini continues to maintain that Amanda and Raffaele must have been there at the killing. His only mistake was the identity of the third person.
So the picture became Amanda, Raffaele and Guede were responsible for this killing together.
They swapped one black guy for another black guy.
Meanwhile, the extraordinary allegations of sexual depravity and murder prove irresistible for news outlets across the world.
Second to the crime of this prosecution is the crime committed by the media. The worst headlines, I think, were in the UK. The coverage was really salacious, and it was sexualized.
She was always referred to as a murderess. Let's be sure to accentuate the fact that she's female.
They named her Foxy Knoxy. That was her name when she played soccer as a kid. But all of a sudden, she's Foxy Knoxy, the American from Seattle that's like doing all these terrible things.
All of it will prove extremely difficult for Amanda when the case eventually comes to court.
If you convict in the media, the courtroom's a snap.
Over a year after Meredith's body was discovered, the case finally goes to trial.
The whole thing really became a circus, because then the journalists really did pile in.
People were coming and running in and out of that courtroom, and there was all of this frenzy.
And they had to open an annex room so there was a video feed for the people who couldn't squeeze into the courtroom itself. It resembled a kind of summit meeting or a kind of a big deal political event, and it was just this squalid trial going on.
What all the photographers and film crews want is a glimpse of the angel-faced killer.
She would come into court and they would get her like a deer in the headlights in the camera, and she'd look right into the camera. So they'd say, she's stone cold, murderous, look at the way she looks. She has no emotion. They kept portraying her that way.
Proceedings open with Mignini presenting his case. What he spells out is a scenario where Amanda Knox is the ringleader, luring Raffaele and Rudy Guede into committing a sexual attack on her friend at their home.
He painted this lurid picture of what had actually happened in the room for the court.
There were very clear signs of the victim having been grabbed.
It was all about sex, about her being the lead killer in a sexualized homicide. Never led by the men, always led by Amanda Knox.
And then someone, we believed it was Amanda, had inflicted the stroke that was the most serious one.
He said, all we lack is a video camera, because we can imagine what happened so clearly. There was Amanda with the knife in her hand.
Then Mignini reveals his trump card. Despite earlier reports, it appears he does have cast-iron forensic evidence linking both Knox and Sollecito to the crime scene. The clasp from Meredith's bra has been recovered from the scene, and a trace of Raffaele's DNA found on it. Then Mignini presents to the court the murder weapon itself, a knife recovered from Raffaele's home with both Amanda and Meredith's DNA on it.
He claimed that they had a murder knife, which had Amanda's fingerprints on it and the DNA of the victim on the blade. That's pretty strong evidence.
It is, Mignini says, proof that it was Amanda who struck the killer blow.
It basically fit right down the line. You have character, you have motive, you have opportunity, you have the weapon. Ba-bam, it's done.
After more than 18 months in jail, in the summer of 2009, Amanda Knox finally has the opportunity to defend herself in court. But throughout the trial, her behavior has only seemed to help the prosecution.
She had some bad moments in retrospect, born of being naive. She smiled too much. She would smile at her family when they come to see her. She wore a T-shirt on Valentine's Day that said, "All you need is love."
This T-shirt sending exactly the wrong signals to the Italian audience and to anybody else, really, thinking, God, this girl's flaky at the very least, and at the worst, probably some kind of libidinous sort of pervert.
It all means that by the time Amanda does eventually testify, many in the courtroom view what she says with great suspicion.
They told me that I was trying to protect someone.
Mi è stato detto che stavo cercando di proteggere qualcuno.
But I wasn't trying to protect anyone.
Her accusers become progressively more assured.
Non ho avuto...
I had no fear, even though it is difficult to foresee the outcome of a trial. I was confident.
Sviscerato in tutti i modi.
On December the 4th, 2009, the verdict comes in.
I didn't think it was going to be okay.
Amanda and Raffaele are found guilty of Meredith's murder. They are sentenced to 26 and 25 years, respectively.
There were people in the streets yelling in Italian, calling her murderess, a murderess. It was almost pagan.
Mignini seems to have won. But the saga is far from over. In her hometown of Seattle, the Friends of Amanda Knox is formed. Its aim? To highlight the irregularities in the prosecution's case. The campaign group contains a number of highly experienced legal professionals, including criminal lawyer Anne Bremner.
I had everything in the case. And I couldn't believe what a travesty that prosecution was. I could not believe it.
To Bremner, Mignini's bizarre sexual scenario makes no sense.
If you want to look in the history of the world, how many cases have three people like this that don't even know each other with a violent killing with a knife and slitting the throat? Is there a case like that? I don't think so.
Bremner focuses on the forensic evidence. She enlists former FBI investigator Steve Moore to review footage of the Italian police conducting the initial crime scene investigation.
I watched about a 2-hour, uncut, unedited, raw video of the crime scene investigators in Perugia going through the house. And it was like watching the Hindenburg go down. It was incomprehensible to me as an investigator.
To experts like Moore and Bremner, it is clear that the investigators are not taking the most basic precautions against contamination of evidence.
They've got people in the scene that aren't forensic people, normally clothed. They're not wearing protective clothing.
They were walking from room to room where there was blood on the floor and tracking it into other rooms.
It was like medieval, you know, it was like, this is not CSI.
Bremner and Moore are clear. The central plank of the prosecution's case, the forensic evidence, cannot be trusted.
I realized beyond a shadow of a doubt in my professional experience that this girl was innocent.
By October 2011, Amanda Knox has been in jail for 4 years.
She missed 4 birthdays, 4 Christmases, 4 Thanksgivings, sitting in a prison in Italy. She endured that, knowing that she was innocent.
But she does have a glimmer of hope. Under the Italian legal system, anyone convicted of murder is automatically granted an appeal. For Amanda and her supporters, this is a genuine second chance for justice.
We knew in the Italian system that their appeals are what's called de novo, which means you try it anew, you start all over again.
Crucially, the new trial has a new judge, Claudio Hellman, a highly respected legal figure with over 40 years' experience of criminal law. Straight away, Hellman hits on the foundation of the prosecution case, the forensics.
Dunque c'erano in effetti 2 elementi.
There were 2 items featuring biological traces on the part of the accused.
Nell'ambito del processo. Ed erano appunto il gancetto
And
del
they were
reggiseno
these: Meredith's bra
di
clip
Meredith e il
and the knife.
coltello. Siccome poi erano le uniche tracce
These were the
portate
only
dall'accusa,
DNA traces
tracce
in existence relating to the defendants.
degli imputati.
Hellman orders a forensic review of both the bra clasp and the knife.
Totally independent, top experts in Italy reviewed the evidence.
The review finds that Meredith Kircher's bra clasp, carrying the DNA of Raffaele and supposedly linking him to the crime scene, in fact has traces of DNA from at least 3 other people. And a video, played in court, shows that it wasn't collected from the scene until 6 weeks after the murder.
In law enforcement terms, it was discovered in a different era. When you come back 6 weeks later, you might as well have sent archaeologists back 1,000 years later, because nothing in the room is guaranteed anymore to relate to the crime.
As for the kitchen knife, this had been recovered by police from Raffaele's apartment, so Hellman doesn't consider the presence of Amanda's DNA on the handle as very surprising.
Knox was a regular visitor to Sollecito's house, where she often helped him to cook.
So then Hellman's focus moves to the DNA on the blade, said to be Meredith's. But it transpires that the DNA strands are so fragmentary, there is no evidence that it is Meredith's blood at all.
Our DNA test showed they are so slight and indistinct that they could be attributed to anyone.
Then comes the most damning discovery of all. Hellman finds that the knife is not even consistent with the wounds on Meredith's body.
Turned out it didn't even match the knife wound or an imprint of a knife on a pillowcase in Meredith's room.
There were several stabs in the neck, and that knife was too big to fit those wound patterns. It literally wouldn't have gone in the wounds.
Judge Hellman dismisses the knife and the bra clasp as evidence, and the prosecution's case falls apart. On October the 3rd, 2011, Knox and Sollecito's murder convictions are overturned.
They won. She was acquitted, he was acquitted. Beautifully done by Judge Hellman. Perfect, like justice.
After 4 years in jail, Amanda is finally free, and her family are keen to get her home as quickly as possible. Amanda returns to Seattle and an emotional press conference.
What's important for me to say is just thank you to everyone who's believed in me, who's defended me, who's supported my family.
But her troubles are far from over. Under the Italian legal system, there are still 2 more trials to go through. And the first of these, conducted in Amanda's absence, finds her guilty again. Some have the opinion that this latest conviction may have been politically motivated.
Italy has a tendency towards a sense of defensiveness.
That was all about saving face.
For the next 2 years, as she waits for the final decisive trial, Amanda lives in Seattle under constant suspicion of being a murderer and under the threat of being forced to return to Italy to serve the rest of her sentence. Although the media ordeal may have abated, online, Amanda is now subjected to appalling abuse.
Many words used against her. I hope the bitch burns in hell, you know, the whore.
It became a macabre hobby for hundreds and hundreds of people out there in the internet.
You can condemn someone and repeat lie after lie after lie, and there is no accountability because you're completely anonymous.
But in September 2015, Amanda haters everywhere are struck a decisive blow. Finally, the Italian legal system reaches its last stage. In Rome, the Italian Supreme Court makes a definitive ruling in the case of Meredith Kercher's murder.
The highest court in Italy came out and said, we've looked at all the evidence. It's stunning how bad the crime scene was handled. It's unbelievable how compromised everything is. None of this evidence is admissible. None of it points to either of them, and they are completely innocent.
They didn't say not guilty, which means the prosecution didn't prove the case. No, they said she was innocent, and that means the evidence proved you didn't do it.
At long last, Amanda's ordeal is finally over. Today, Amanda Knox is trying to put her Italian nightmare behind her. She has completed her studies and is now a journalist in Seattle, using her experiences to help others who have faced wrongful prosecution.
She would put her energies in helping those that are wrongfully prosecuted and convicted. And I think, you know, she's very principled and she's actually very admirable.
The truth is, Amanda will never be completely free of the false allegations that have hounded her her entire adult life.
A lot of people who have not looked at this case clearly find it impossible to believe that she had nothing to do with it.
When people say, well, we'll never really know, I think, boy, you know, put some study into this.
The question of who killed Meredith Kercher is simply answered. Rudy Guede killed Meredith Kercher. It was a squalid and banal and horrible, but not very mysterious crime.
Yet for 8 years, Amanda Knox suffered a horrific ordeal. She lost her liberty and faced some of the most appalling allegations imaginable. The sad truth is that she may never be able to return to an entirely normal life.